let me just mention also, because I'm here solo, might as well drop some alpha for people that stuck with us here and with me as I go solo, and Basil just decides to come and go whenever he pleases. Not trying to be consistent or nothing here, but been really digging in and working on Age of Deceit 4, and I really don't want to spill the beans on some of this stuff because it's kind of cool, some of the stuff I'm looking at. But there is something to, how should I say this? There's more and more evidence that things are going to get crazy. And I proposed this thesis in, I think it was Age of Deceit 3. The whole idea of what is going to happen to creation, where it's so messed up that God is like, the heavens receded like a scroll. Everything burned up. Everything was burned up and then replaced. New heaven and a new earth. And I've always wondered, like, oh, wow, like, what do we do to this? It's already fallen. We know that. There's already decay in the world, etc. But what's going to happen where God is like, okay, we need to put an end to this. We need to burn it all up. We need to restore it with a new heaven and a new earth. And there was actually an interview with, what was his name? Let me try to remember. Let me try to pull it up just because it was recent on the Lex Friedman podcast, episode 293. There was a professor, Donald Hoffman, was the interviewer, or the one being interviewed. And Donald Hoffman actually was my psychology, I think it was psychology 1 or something, or I think they called it psychology 10 or something like that, in college. So I had Dr. Hoffman as my psychology professor in college, and I remember being like, what is this? I thought it was supposed to be psychology. Half the time he was talking about 4 dimensions and having like unseen entities in these hidden dimensions and stuff. And it was the class it wasn't easy, but it was more simple because Donald Hoffman was talking about all this crazy stuff during the actual lectures, and then he would spend the first half hour talking about all that stuff, and then he'd go into the curriculum, and then we'd only spend like 10-15 minutes on the actual curriculum. So, but you would understand what I'm talking about because, if you check out the Lex Friedman podcast with Donald Hoffman, because he really gets into this idea that, reductionism is, we've reached its limit. We have looked at the smallest piece of the material world, and it's not giving us answers. Therefore, the notion of the general theory of relativity is challenged when we go into different realms, different sizes, with the macro or the micro, which is something we've been saying here. At least I've been harping for a while, which is, man, scientifically, it has come to the end of the ropes. They are done with materialism. Atheism perhaps can remain as sort of a philosophical social movement, but more so the atheists have latched onto some kind of secular spirituality, which entails a lot of New Age, which entails a lot of weird quasi-religion, especially now with what's happening culturally. You look at Joe Rogan, what he's leading culturally with the movement in psychedelics and everything else, mainstreaming of all that. It appears that the very science behind the very pillars of science will change, or at least evolve to where, or maybe expand is the better word, because I don't think they're going to abandon the general theory of relativity, because, they'll argue like, oh, it's gotten us to fly airplanes and trains and, whatever, GPS, whatever. They have their excuses of how it worked and how we can't abandon it. But there will be a new science or new physics, so to speak, that taps into the more unseen, the intangible side. And it's coming right at a time when we got people talking about how AI has a soul, because that's very useful in this conversation, because it does 2 things. One, the idea of a soul will influence religious people to sort of accept a sentient AI, but also it will create the general population, or the secularists will see this as, oh, there's something spiritual about the nature of reality, our minds, our souls, I guess you can call it that. But really, it's all about the vehicle that we're in. Yeah, we might have this immaterial part of us, our mind or whatever, our soul, but it's all about the vehicle. What vehicle are we using to live this life and manifest in this physical world? And that will become ground zero for all kinds of transhumanism, because if our bodies are literally just vehicles, and some Christians will use this argument, oh, it's a temple, but we can upgrade the temple, right? You can put better walls up on the temple. We can put better doors. We can use better wood. Why not? Well, let's make it real safe. Let's put a moat around it. Let's get some cannons. Let's get some laser guns, and we'll have a whole army of drones. You see how this can get really out of hand. So my point is that the foundation, the social foundation, let me rephrase that. The foundation of the social psychology of everything happening now is shifting, and science, official science leading that charge, is very fascinating to watch, and has its connections to Antarctica, because Antarctica is largely an unknown piece of land for a majority of the people in the world. It's a very easy place to start exploring, or maybe using the mystery as a way to indoctrinate the masses into the supernatural, but the counterfeit side, right? And I really want to save it for Age of Deceit 3 or 4, I guess. But let me just mention this, that the end times prophecies, I guess this is a point I've made before, so this won't be any groundbreaking stuff, but a lot of the way in which biblical prophecy plays out, with the false prophet and the Antichrist and the beast and the woman who rides the beast and all that stuff, the key moments are surrounding the death, or the head wound, the mortal head wound of one of the kings of the first beast, and the second beast coming up and healing the mortal head wound, and also calling fire down from heaven. And my point is, all this shifting in science is setting up for the counterfeit miracles, because a lot of where science is going right now is the simulation theory. And basically the simulation theory being that, hey, the whole universe is programmed, and it begs the question, who is the programmer, right? If we're living in a simulation and everything's being programmed, who is the programmer? And that's where the counterfeit signs and wonders come in, because whoever is able to demonstrate power over nature, power over this simulation, will be deemed God of this simulation. I think that completely sets up the Antichrist beast system, false prophet, calling fire down from heaven, resurrecting some dude with the mortal head wound, people worshiping, wanting to be a part of it, taking some kind of mark on the right hand or forehead. Otherwise, you can't participate in this economy. All that stuff. It's because if you otherwise think about it, how would a world today with technology and all this stuff happening, how would anybody, the secular world and the religious world together, be convinced that somebody is God? There are a bunch of people that claim to be God. There's a bunch of kings and royalty throughout the centuries who have claimed, some kind of not just royal blood, but God blood, right? Or lowercase g. We are descendants of the gods. Our blood streams gods from the ancient past or whatever. That stuff has existed, but none of those people have demonstrated anything out in the open to convince the public that, oh, snap, that dude really might be God. We've not had that in a couple thousand years, or at least to the scale that we're potentially seeing in the future here. So that's really one of my big sort of, I guess, punchlines, so to speak, of Age of Deceit 4 that'll be out by the time it's too late. Jesus will be back, and Age of Deceit 4 will be released. But anyway, that's a long rant at the end of this episode, just to say that Antarctica has opened up all kinds of strangeness to the world, and I think that's part of its purpose. Apart from being the woke place, apart from being the perfect catalyst for climate change legislation and all that kind of stuff, all the political stuff, there is a supernatural indoctrination that I think has taken place through something like Antarctica. So there you go. That does it for episode 498. My goodness. Oh, this is, I was telling Basil before the show how, I was getting real excited for episode 500, the last few episodes. I'm kind of pumping myself up for it. And then I was kind of like, I should lower my expectations. We're in a really challenging spot in the world right now. Inflation is killing people, literally and figuratively, in their pocketbooks. The economy is just in complete shambles. The stock market, we had the recent rate hikes. Things are rough right now. We literally are going through a kind of reset. And especially, in the world of crypto, it is just a bloodbath isn't even a strong enough word to describe what's happening in the crypto sector. It's a complete demolition of the institutions that built their businesses surrounding the digital asset industry. It's not the cryptos themselves that are having so much of an issue, although the price in dollars has gone down. It's really the hedge funds and the centralized institutions that have created that they've over leveraged basically over the last year or two during the bull market, and especially the money printing, and they're just over leveraged, and so it's really a bummer. It hurt a lot of people, and as I mentioned before, I had part of my crypto in the Celsius network, so that's all frozen right now. Who knows if we'll get it back? A lot of drama surrounding that, a lot of rumors. We don't know everything that's happening. Texas, Kentucky, a few other states are investigating Celsius now through the SEC. I know Celsius is in conversation with the SEC, which is the Security and Exchange Commission, because ultimately, from what I understand, maybe I'm biased because I had some crypto on there, but this was not the singular direct fault of Celsius. It's a combination of the market trend in general, part of the reversing of the inflation, and of course, crypto absorbed a lot of the inflation. And it's easier to kill crypto, especially right now, because it's not a huge industry. And I want people to think about this. Sorry, continuing rant here, but no Basil, and we're in early today, so I'll go for a little bit longer. If you look at the overall supply of money, we printed I've heard anywhere from 40 to 80% of the US dollar supply in the last 2 years. It's part of the stimulus because COVID, we're all going to die, so we better print a lot of money. Now we have rapid inflation. They're going to say we're in recession, which is a lagging indicator, which means by the time they say, we're in a recession officially, we will have already experienced it. We are experiencing the woes of a recession right now. And in fact, I'm worried that we are actually going to go into a depression here. And it's not out of the question the way things are going. And given the plans for a cyber pandemic, given a plan for the Great Reset, all that stuff, it's a great, great opportunity to do all that when you're fixing the inflation problem. Hey, we printed all this money. Hey, we're rich. Hey, everybody has money. Oh, wait a minute. We printed so much money. All the prices are going up. Ugh. We're going to raise interest rate. Oh wait, but if we raise interest rates too fast, we'll crash the stock market. We'll crash the economy. We don't want to do. Well, maybe we do want to do that. Well, let's just go ahead and do that. Let's crash the economy. I mean, we're already, we messed up pretty bad with the printing of all that money, and we really want to bust out the CBDCs, the central bank digital currency. We really want that to be the main way people buy or sell now. So we need to create chaos. Can we create chaos? Yes, we can. Let's just start shutting down all these crypto projects that are touting freedom and touting independence from the central banks. We gave them warnings, we gave them cease and desist letters. We told them that we will be coming after them, but they didn't listen. And so we can go ahead and start pulling the trigger on some more nasty procedures that will send the message to the rest of the world that we're serious about our control over the monetary system. And boom, boom, boom. You got Terra Luna, 40 billion gone in 2 days. Celsius Network, tens of millions or hundreds of millions locked up, million and a half customers, zero access to their crypto. There was a company called Babel Finance. Hello, we've actually talked about, I reported on Babel Finance, 4 years ago, because Babel Finance was the Asian sector. They were like the biggest Asian crypto hedge fund, and they shut down all withdrawals yesterday. So there is a clear reset in the plan here. And part of it, crypto is the easiest one. Let me get back to my point. The reason why crypto is so easy to take down is because at the peak this last year, the entire market cap, these aren't unrealized gains. It's just the market cap, how much the value in dollars the entire crypto market is worth. During this last year in 2021, we reached $3 trillion. Okay, 3 trillion and some change, I think, was the highest we were as far as the entire market cap of crypto. Right now, we have been crushed underneath $1 trillion. So we dropped from 3 trillion plus to under 1 trillion right now. Okay, so that's a lot of money leaving. But if you look at the world of bonds, the world of actual dollars circulating, real estate, stock market, all these things, we're talking hundreds of trillions of dollars. I think the stock market alone is like 160 trillion. I could be wrong about that. It's a lot of money. Crypto is like a drop in the bucket compared to how much dollars is actually floating out there. And so it would make sense that as crypto becomes more mature as an industry, they're not going to allow crypto to mature under the context, under the narrative of we are freeing you from the tyranny. We are a hedge against the manipulation that takes place in all markets, gold, silver, stock market, everything. You can own your own digital assets. And again, these are somewhat arbitrary things. But they can't have that narrative. It's got to be under the context of, hey, it's just a new cool thing that the technocrats have made. And here you go. It's got the same technology as Bitcoin. It's got blockchain, so it must be the same. No, it's not going to be the same. And it's not going to be Bitcoin and all that. It will not be allowed to go up unless it's ready to go in the beast system